The bride, Grace Miller, who had graduated from a prestigious music college, looked down on me, a mere high school graduate, with a certain air of superiority. And yet, there she was, insisting I play the piano at my brother's wedding. Wait, what? I had never told her I could play the piano. Was she messing with me? I was already trembling as I stood before the keys, my fingers frozen, my mind in a haze, but then, she leaned in close. And what did she whisper? Something utterly shocking. To be honest, I have a real boyfriend, besides Jack. Her smile was like a knife, sharp and filled with malice, as my heart skipped a beat in fear. But even in that moment of sheer panic, I knew that smile wouldn't last long. No, it wouldn't. My name is Alina Johnson. I'm 32, unmarried, and I work as a staff member at a wedding hall. It's just my brother, Jack, and me, our family, a broken puzzle of memories. Our parents divorced when I was in high school, and a few years later, we lost our mother in a tragic accident. Our father? Well, he disappeared, leaving us to fend for ourselves. I never had the luxury of going to college like others. I had to work to make sure Jack had a chance at a better life. He deserved it. Jack, my younger brother by 3 years, is sharp. He's smart, driven, he earned a full scholarship to university, and now, he works at a prestigious company. I couldn't have been prouder of him. And now, he was about to marry a woman who seemed to have it all. Grace Miller. Beautiful, pleasant, and poised. She'd graduated from an esteemed music institution, taught private piano lessons, and her family was wealthy. Seemingly perfect. But was she? Our families met for the first time one holiday, and let me tell you, Grace was even more stunning in person than in her photos. Her smile, her laughter, they drew everyone in. She even approached me, asking for advice. I heard you work at a wedding hall, she said. Could we have our wedding there? Of course, we'd be delighted to help, I said, eager to support my brother. This was his big day after all. As her parents beamed with pride, they shared stories of Grace's piano accomplishments, awards, competitions, you name it. But then her father dropped something. There was always this one girl who beat Grace, he said, almost reluctantly. Grace's demeanor shifted, like a cloud passing over the sun. Let's not talk about that, she cut him off, her voice sharp. Later, I stepped out to take a work call, only to bump into Grace again. She was returning from the restroom, and when I thanked her for the wonderful day, her expression shifted, cold, distant. Attending today's meeting is a high school graduate, she muttered. Wait, what? What just happened? Confused and unable to respond, I went back to my seat, but that little exchange kept swirling in my head. Was it a misunderstanding? Or was there something else at play here? It quickly became clear that it wasn't a misunderstanding at all. The more Grace and I met to plan the wedding, the more she belittled me. You don't resemble Jack, she would say with a laugh, implying I was unattractive. Why don't you worry about yourself? Instead of helping others, maybe you should find a partner, if you even could. Her insults didn't stop there. She would sneer at my high school education. You're not very bright, are you? She'd say, as if her Ivy League pedigree gave her some divine right to judge me. I always won the top prize in piano competitions, she boasted. Unlike you, who just finished high school and jumped into work. Her constant jabs wore me down. She wasn't just my brother's fiancée, she was a bully, and yet, Jack loved her. I couldn't bring myself to tell him about Grace's cruel nature. I thought I could bear it. But as time passed, it became harder and harder to hide the truth. Then came the wedding day. It was finally here. Grace, as the daughter of an executive, had a guest list full of company employees. We had arranged everything to perfection: special accommodations, VIP treatment. As the groom's sister, I could have taken the day off, but I wanted to be there, even if it was just behind the scenes. But then, just minutes before the ceremony began, something unbelievable happened. Two of Grace's friends entered the dressing room where I was freshening up, chatting away. I wanted to say hello, but I needed to finish up, so I kept working on my hair and makeup. That's when their conversation took a turn I never saw coming. "Hey, you know Grace is dating another guy, right?" one of them said. "I heard he's from a nightclub. She's getting married today just to keep up appearances." The other girl responded, "If that's true, I feel so bad for Jack, poor guy, who has no idea." My heart stopped. Did I hear that right? Was Grace really about to marry my brother, all while secretly seeing someone else? Panicking, I immediately wanted to stop the wedding, but without proof, how could I? How could I ruin my brother's big day without knowing for sure? But there was no time. The ceremony had begun. Suddenly, Grace grabbed the microphone and announced, "Now, my sister-in-law will make a presentation on the piano." Wait, what? My stomach dropped to my feet. I had never mentioned playing the piano. Grace had no idea I could even play. This was not part of the plan. Grace was supposed to be the one playing the piano. The staff scrambled to get the piano ready as I stood frozen, confused, and terrified. "Come this way," Grace snapped, yanking me by the arm, dragging me toward the piano. What was happening? "Hey, you didn't tell me anything about this," I whispered, trying to keep my voice calm, though inside, I was shaking. Grace leaned in, her voice low, her smile twisted. "When I look at you, I can't help but get angry. I just want to annoy you." She grinned, a vindictive glint in her eyes. My mind raced as I realized the extent of her cruelty. She's doing this on purpose. And just as the piano was finally set up, Grace taunted me. "Let's see what you've got." The weight of the moment pressed down on me. Could I expose her lies, or would I be forced to play along? What was I supposed to do now? I sat down on the piano bench, my hands trembling, my body shaking. The weight of what was happening pressed on me like a heavy fog. My breath was coming in ragged gasps, each one a struggle. Was this too much to ask of someone like me? Someone who only graduated high school? Grace's voice rang out with cruel amusement. "Maybe you've never even touched a piano." Her triumphant smile spread wider, and I could feel the eyes of the crowd growing heavier, more expectant. I was in the spotlight now, and all I wanted to do was vanish. A staff member, noticing my distress, approached me gently. "Are you feeling all right?" she asked, her voice full of concern. But Grace, standing at the corner of her table, didn't flinch. She only smirked, her voice dripping with mockery. "Play the piano if you're Jack's sister." But it seems I was mistaken. "I'm sorry." The sarcasm was sharp enough to cut through the tension. But then, a single voice, my brother's voice, shattered the silence, and suddenly everything changed. "Don't you know my sister?" he asked, his words like a lifeline thrown into the chaos. I broke the silence, my fingers moving instinctively over the keys. I played Dream of Love, a timeless standard at weddings. The moment my fingers hit the first note, the noise of the venue stilled. The clamor of voices faded, leaving only the sound of the piano filling the air. It was as if the world had stopped just to listen. When I finished, the applause was deafening. Thunderous, like a storm breaking over us. My colleagues, who had no idea I could play like that, were moved to tears. But Grace, her face turned a deep shade of crimson, her lips pressed together in frustration. You were trembling earlier, she snapped, her eyes wide with disbelief. How could you play so well? I smiled, my heart still racing, but there was a calmness now. I didn't tell you, but I studied at a music college overseas, I replied, the words slipping out before I could stop them. Grace staggered backward, her face a mask of astonishment. You went to a music college? How could someone like you, from a single-mother family, attend a place like that? She sounded almost incredulous. I had a few people around me who supported me, I explained. But when my mother passed away, I had to drop out to help my brother finish school. The words were quiet but resolute. I had never told Grace about my piano background because I didn't want to overshadow her. But now, in this moment, I realized it didn't matter anymore. Wait! Elena Garcia, one of Grace's friends, gasped, as if a sudden memory had struck her. Is that you? The Elena Garcia who, her words were cut off by the woman beside her, who eagerly added, she's the one we could never even begin to compete with. The realization hit Grace like a punch to the gut. You're that Elena Garcia, she stammered, eyes wide with disbelief. The one who always won the competitions? I nodded, a small smile playing on my lips. I'm the girl who always stood in front of you at every competition, I said softly. The memory was bittersweet, but it felt freeing to finally speak the truth. The MC, sensing the shift in energy, approached me with a microphone. It was a wonderful performance. Would you like to say something to the crowd? This was my moment. I couldn't let Grace get away with what she had done. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding in my chest, and then I spoke into the microphone. Please listen, everyone. Grace is having an affair. The room went dead silent. Gasps echoed around the hall. Guests froze, eyes wide in shock. Grace's parents stared at me, mouths agape. No, that's not true. Grace yelled, but it was too late. I quickly connected my phone to the speaker and played the recording of Grace's confession. To be honest, I have another boyfriend. I only married him because my parents were too annoying. Her voice echoed through the hall, clear as day. Grace's face drained of color. She looked as though the floor had just opened beneath her. You disgraceful brat, her father shouted, his voice filled with rage. And then, it all fell apart. I'm sorry, Papa, Grace begged, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry. But it was too late. Jack, furious beyond words, stepped forward. How dare you deceive me? I'm not marrying you, he thundered. Grace's face crumpled, her pleas falling on deaf ears. Please reconsider, she begged, but Jack's anger was implacable. Apologize to my sister, he demanded. His words cut deep, and Grace's defenses crumbled. Her tearful pleas were hollow. She hadn't even apologized to me. She had spent months belittling me, mocking my education, my life. And now she expected forgiveness? How dare you think I would forgive you? I spat, my voice cold. You insulted me, belittled my brother. You took everything for granted. My words hung in the air, thick with disdain. Grace, broken and desperate, confessed that the man she had been seeing was a spendthrift, and she couldn't survive on his money alone. How will I ever live on my own if Papa and Jack abandon me? She cried, her voice tinged with desperation. I don't care about your life, I said firmly. I'm not going to forgive you. Finally, Grace, cornered and defeated, bowed her head, her tears staining her makeup. I'm sorry for everything I've done, she whispered, her voice barely audible. But I had no sympathy left for her. I feel nothing for you, I said coldly. Never show your face in front of us again. Grace collapsed into a heap of sobs, her relatives rushing to take her away. The wedding was abruptly canceled, and the guests filed out in stunned silence. Afterward, my brother and I sat down for a heart-to-heart. "I'm sorry, Alina," Jack said, his voice heavy with regret. "I never should have fallen for her." I smiled softly, my heart aching for him. "I'll be fine," I assured him. "Are you going to be okay?" He nodded, though his eyes betrayed his sadness. "I need to sort out my feelings, but I'll get back on my feet soon." And I believed him. I promised to watch over him as he healed. In the months that followed, Jack broke off the engagement, and Grace's life spiraled out of control. Her parents cut her off, and she found herself working part-time, unable to make ends meet. The man she had been dating abandoned her as soon as he realized there was no money to be had. As for Jack, he threw himself into his work and soon earned a promotion. He was happier than I'd seen him in a long time, his efforts finally paying off. And me? I was asked to play the piano at more and more weddings, my days filled with music. My performances now brought joy to others, and I couldn't have been more thrilled. The piano was where I belonged, and I was ready to share that passion with the world.